The world has 1 million COVID-19 cases.
This coronavirus is turning liberals into Republicans. They suddenly see the importance of having a choice of what school to send their child to, including being able to choose homeschooling. They suddenly want to exercise their right to assemble, despite being restricted to hunkering down in their homes.
The governor of New York State closed down his state. And he said, if everything I am doing saves one life, it is worth it. Do you know how foolish that is? If one person dying is the criterion, everything must stop. We would have to stay in our homes the rest of our lives. You can't ruin millions of lives to save one life. That's cruel.
Now liberals want closed borders with tight controls and vetting to ensure that no more non-Americans are allowed to game our immigration system, exploit our services, expatriate our US dollar, and potentially introduce new strains of ailments to further burden our health system. They suddenly realize that the need for national sovereignty is not xenophobic, but has health implications. They suddenly care about preserving as many human lives as possible and retaining access to private healthcare services after seeing what happens when centralized healthcare in Italy resulted in state rationing of health services of old and health-compromised people.
One thing you won't see inside hospitals are patients' families. It's too dangerous, so when patients die, they die alone.
Families are contacted by phone to tell them that their beloved is dead. Something like this is extremely difficult. This is not a joke. This is not a joke at all.
They suddenly see the importance of knowing what's in vaccines, which company is making it, where it's made, and retaining the agency to choose what's best for the health of themselves and their children. They suddenly see the importance of not outsourcing factory work and relying on other countries for the production of vital goods and medical supplies, because in times of crisis, it could be used as leverage.
We need to bring this manufacturing back. You know, I think it was amazing last week when China was talking about withholding one of the pharmaceutical ingredients that is needed in a drug to treat COVID-19. And we don't want to see that happen or put ourselves in that position that they can say, we're going to withhold this so you cannot treat your citizens.
They suddenly see the importance of American dollars being spent on American products being made by American workers in American businesses.
Businesses small and large are struggling to stay afloat.
They suddenly see the importance of doing everything possible to keep as many businesses as possible afloat, to reduce layoffs, so they actually have a job to go back to after the crisis is over. They suddenly realize that their unions are almost entirely powerless to help them in times of crisis. They suddenly see the importance of self-sufficiency and responsibility, because group responsibility only results in big government, fiscal bloat, waste, fraud and abuse, and slow-to-arrive aid.
Huge parts of the proposal have nothing to do with fighting the pandemic we're suffering through. Read it, and you will find disgusting little interest group handouts added by lobbyists. House Democrats have crammed it with totally unrelated political priorities. And then there's this. The House version of the bill includes special provisions, for real, to protect foreign nationals working here in the U.S. So we're staring down the barrel of the most profound employment crisis of our lifetimes. That's not an exaggeration. And what are Democrats doing? They're trying to automatically renew visas and work permits for all immigrants here in the U.S. Democrats want to make certain the people who are replacing you are secure and happy.
They suddenly recognize that there is no such thing as government funded, but every public service and aid program is instead taxpayer funded. They suddenly realize that nothing is truly free. The money has to come from someone, somewhere.
I feel like the bottom has to fall out at some point. And by the way, I'm hoping for it, because I think one way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. Yeah. So please, bring on the recession. Yeah. Sorry if that hurts people, but it's either root for a recession or you lose your democracy.
It's a record number for Americans filing for unemployment as the virus rips through our economy.
Industry after industry grinding to a halt in the wake of COVID-19. Employees fired or furloughed with no end in sight.
That means about 10 million Americans have lost their jobs in the past 2 weeks.
They suddenly realize that wishing for the economy to crash, just to spite President Trump and hurt his chances of re-election, actually comes back to bite them when they get laid off from their job that had to close because their Democrat politician that they voted for instituted a statewide lockdown for weeks.
One way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. So please bring on the recession.
Times Square is empty. Broadway theaters are closed. Restaurants shuttered as people are just trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent.
Gun battle brewing in California. The debate, should gun shops be considered essential businesses?
The Second Amendment is essential to America, and gun stores are a part of that.
In the meantime, business is booming.
There's been a lot of people buying firearms, 50 to 60 sales a day.
Jeff Jordan says he hasn't done sales this good since President Obama was elected to office.
Now they're mad that gun control is getting in the way of them getting their gun.
You've never been around before to purchase a gun, and all of a sudden now you want stuff done like this. Well, listen, that's not the way it works. Yes, there's a 10-day waiting period. You're going to have to wait for your gun.
And let me just make my plea. Until the coronavirus is resolved, criminals take a break. Stay home and don't commit any crimes. So everybody chill. Crooks, criminals, you chill. Wait till the coronavirus is over.
They suddenly want to exercise their right to own a gun and defend their family from the dangerous criminals released onto our streets and the tyranny of the Democrat politicians that they voted for. There is a silver lining after all.